With June 5th, Draco Malfoy's birthday coming up around the corner, I want to talk about that character. Hi friends, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. I hope that you guys are doing okay. And of course, with that little introduction that you guys just saw, we are talking about Draco Malfoy, my favorite character today. And I know that I only talk about 2 characters on this channel, but he is my favorite character, okay? And so, with his birthday coming up, we're talking about him, Draco Malfoy, and the redemption arc that my boy deserved but never received. Before I start this video, I want to say that I wouldn't call myself a Harry Potter fan by any chance because I have not even read the Harry Potter books. The only Harry Potter materials, official material that I have ever absorbed were the movies. But through my times reading Dramione fanfiction, I am familiar with canon details because fanfictions are most of the time developed from the baseline that is canon. And also by me being in the Dramione community, I'm also kind of like generally in touch with the Harry Potter community as a whole too. And I'm familiar with the general public opinion on the characters of Draco Malfoy. I've always seen 2 arguments about Draco Malfoy on the internet, and one of them being that he's a bully and the second one being that he is a Death Eater. And I want to dive deep into both of the arguments today, of course, in this video, and I will give you guys some countermeasures on both of the arguments too. And in addition to all of that, I will also give you guys some recommendation, Dramione fanfiction recommendation, of course, because that's the only thing I read and the only thing I talk about on this channel. But the story that I will be sharing with you guys today will give you guys another glimpse into the characters of Draco Malfoy. This story highlight the character growth or the redemption arc that we have always talked about for Draco Malfoy. So let's get the video started today, shall we? Now, let's start with the first argument that we have, okay? Draco Malfoy is a bully. And I have to say that I agree with you, he is a bully, which was a bully. Now, he was born Draco Malfoy, the heir to Lucius and Narcissa Malfoy, the last scion to the oldest and the 2 most respected pure blood families in the whole Wizarding War. He was born into almost the thorn of the Wizarding War, and he knows all of this. And he used all of the prestige that comes with his name, let alone the wealth of it, to his advantage, especially in the early years at Hogwarts, to be a bully.
And I'm Malfoy. Draco Malfoy. Think my name was funny, do you? With no need to ask you yours. Red hair and a hand-me-down robe. You must be a Weasley.
But if you look at the other side of the coin, you will know that this is all he knows. This is all that he was taught growing up. He also hang out with friends in the same circle, friends who were born and raised in the same way, the same ideology. So if your whole life, all that you know is the same ideology all over again, no matter where you look, then there would be not a lot of room for deviation from all of that. We see all of this through Lucius' interaction with the Weasley, Harry and Hermione in the bookstore at the beginning of their 2nd year.
Now, Draco, play nicely.
You can clearly see how hateful Lucius is toward the Weasley, with Draco right there observing and absorbing too. And then you see it again via Lucius' reaction to Draco's loss to Harry in the first Quidditch match that they had at Hogwarts. You can clearly see how disappointed Lucius is to Draco's failure. Despite Draco being hurt at the moment, he wasn't very concerned about that. Throughout the series, there's no denial that Draco looks up to Lucius as his role model. He looks up to Lucius and wanting to become his father, and so he would do anything to stay in his father's good grace. So to me, it's almost expected of Draco to be hateful and to be a bully because Lucius are both of those things, and Draco is trying very hard to be his father. And to wrap up this argument, I have a quote from Mr. Nelson Mandela that I think perfectly describes this situation, and I want to read it off to you guys. And the quote started, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human hearts than its opposite." I think that's all that I have to say about Draco Malfoy being a bully before we move on to the second argument of the day. Now, the second argument. Draco Malfoy is a Death Eater, and once again I have to say that I agree with you because bitch was also a Death Eater. He took the Dark Mark following Lucius' failure at the Ministry of Magic, and he was given an impossible task of killing Dumbledore. The alternative to all of that is seeing the death of yourself and your parents both. Did he take the Dark Mark, or was he forced to take that Dark Mark? Was he silent, or was he silent?
The latter.
I couldn't help but always think about how people talking about Draco Malfoy bearing the dark mark, but no one really talk about the trauma that this teenager has to go through getting that tattoo. No one talk about the physical and the mental trauma that Draco has to experience being a 16 years old to be marked. And nobody even talk about how it wasn't a choice, because the other side of the road is the death of you and your family, both the end to of the bloodline that is so pure that you were so proud of. Nobody talk about how having your world shaken from the roots will have such an impact on a teenager. And nobody talk about how traumatic it is to have the Dark Lord living in your childhood home too, in addition to bearing the dark mark that is so crucifying to your whole existence. Nobody talk about how his parents, specifically his mother, is stuck at home with the Dark Lord while he's at school completing his impossible of a task that will see the doom of himself and his parents both. Nobody talk about the pressure that Draco Malfoy is just under during that 6th year. And to add to that argument, I want to talk about the non-existing support system that Draco possessed. And I know it's partly his fault because he keep cronies and not friends, but we're not talking about how he is taught to keep cronies and not friends, because we are past that argument. But he has nobody to help him or to support him throughout all of this. When you look at the characters of Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy, you will see a lot of similarities between both of them. But the one thing that Harry has that Draco doesn't is the support system. And I'm not talking about only friends here. Harry also has professor who would keep an eye out for him. Draco doesn't have any of that. And we're not talking about Snape, because Draco doesn't know of Snape's loyalty to Dumbledore or the Order. To Draco, Snape is the one Death Eater that is so close to the Dark Lord. So one misstep from you will probably see the death of you and your parents both. So there is no way that Draco can trust Snape. And also people love to say that Draco Malfoy is dark because he bear the dark mark, but no one talk about how Harry literally sectum sempra my boy in the bathroom and got away with it without even like a slap on the wrist. And then again, that ties up almost everything about Draco Malfoy, because he doesn't even have someone who truly cares about him. And it surprised me that Hermione Granger of all people noticed how different that he acts during the 6th year. And to all of that, I want to tie a bow and wrap it up for you guys. Dumbledore, the puppet master, knows all of the above, knows everything that we have discussed so far, and decided to not take any action until the very last moment, where Draco didn't even have enough time to think about the offer that he made. It's almost ironic to me, Draco's situation here, because he grew up being so proud to be a Malfoy, to be in that much wealth, that much prestige, that much respect. In a blink of an eye, all of the baggage that comes with being a Malfoy turned from a blessing to a curse real quick. And also Lucius, who Draco's look up to his whole life, who Draco's want to be his whole life, indirectly or directly put him into this situation that will doom him for life. And Draco wanted to be his father so bad he got a matching tattoo with his father too. And with all of that, you can still argue that Draco Malfoy is a bully and Draco Malfoy is a Death Eater, because he is unfortunately both of those things. But while you see him as a bully and a Death Eater, I also see the other side of Draco Malfoy being a misguided child who really had no choice and no support system. He really stand no chance of all of this stacked against him. And when he was given the choice, he decided not to identify Harry, Ron and Hermione at his manner, knowing what could be the consequences of his action. And to me, it's all that matter, because better late than never. He needs a lot of shaking of his root in order to realize, in order to like take his blinder off and see the world for itself. But to do all of that as Draco Malfoy, to me, is such a kudo that a lot of people overlook. So now that we have been through with my sentimentals on the characters of Draco Malfoy, let's talk about the Hermione fanfiction recommendation that will highlight the growth of his characters, and will probably focus on the redemption arc that he has to walk in order to see himself on the other side. First, I want to recommend The Disappearances of Draco Malfoy by Speechwriter. I recommend this story first because the general public opinion is that this story is written very closely to canon, so it almost feels like you are reading a Harry Potter book, an official book, and not a fanfiction. So a lot of people has nominated this story to be the official 7th book in the Harry Potter series, and this story describe what would happen, how the war turns out if Draco Malfoy had enough time to accept Dumbledore's offer on top of the astronomy tower. This story draw out the war with the characters of Draco Malfoy being on the right side of the war, being able to apply all his knowledge and his wisdom in order to help the cause. Personally, I think that the element of romance in this story is very minimized, so if you guys would like to read a story that focus more on the plot line, event driven, I feel like this story is going to be perfect for you because it is super fast paced and it will keep you on your toes and keep you reading. The story is perfect for 3 reasons. The first is that it can be a very perfect gateway piece for you to Dramione fanfiction. If you are trying to explore Dramione and you are not sure about the pairing yet, this story explores the romance at a very mild level so that you can test the water. Secondly, you can give this story to a younger reader as well because the romance is very minimalized here. And third, this would be a gateway for you into fanfiction in general just because of how closely written this story is to canon. If you are trying to see if you can read fanfiction without deviating too much from canon itself, then I feel like this story is going to be perfect as well. Next, I want to recommend Measure of a Man by Inada22, and I have already made a whole video on this story, so if you guys want a little bit more detail, please check out that video because I cannot do this story justice by a little bit of a bleep here. But Measure of a Man kind of draw the bridge between the final battle at Hogwarts and the time when this generation of Hogwarts students has to send their kids to Hogwarts for the first time. This story is set 13 years after the final battle at Hogwarts, and it's explore the story of Draco becoming a man, a father, and a son. So it highlights everything about Draco Malfoy in a very romanticized way, with a lot of supporting characters and a lot of details, expensive, beautiful details. So if you guys want to read a more romance story with the focus more on the characters of Draco, I feel like this story is going to be perfect for you. Of course, it has many other elements that you cannot overlook, but like I say, for more details on Measure of a Man, please check out my other video. Next, I have a super complex Draco Malfoy character for you guys, and that is Uncoffined by Lady of Clune. Now, this story they speak a very bleak reality after Voldemort won and is now ruling the Wizarding War. Ron and Harry both have been killed during the final battle at Hogwarts, and Hermione has to stay with the remainder of the Weasley family. There is no place for Muggle-born in this war at all, and even Half-Blood is struggling to survive. Weasley family and Hermione has to alter their appearance because they are all traitors and they are being hunted. And we just see a chances Draco, who is now the High Reeve, the right hand man to Lord Voldemort, and Hermione has reunited, but Draco doesn't know that Hermione is Hermione because of her altered appearance. This story is super beautifully written. Through Hermione's eye, you will get to explore this High Reeve character. You will get to see him in a very different light, and you will get to see his characters unfold one by one just like an onion to you. And if you guys have heard about Manacle by Selling You before, don't quote me, but I believe that the inspiration for the characters of the High Reeve is drawn from this story, Uncoffined by Lady of Clune. So if you guys have fell in love with Manacle and you guys want to explore more the High Reeve Draco type, please go ahead and read the story because to me this is a classic and a must read in the Dramione fandom. Next, I have 2 stories by Malfoy and I will talk to them one by one. The first one being Statics and the second one being The Boy in the Hammock. Now, Static is also another Voldemort twin alternative universe story where Hermione is asked to open the door of her safe house in order to welcome the 2 newly rescued Death Eater, Lucius and Draco Malfoy, father and son, both into her home. How the 3 of them kind of navigate through that shared living situation is how we get to see the story unfold. And what I absolutely love about this story is, aside from Draco character growth, we get to see how Lucius grow as a character as well. And I feel like this story has one of the most realistic growth for Lucius and Draco both in the whole Dramione fandom. I just love Statics with all my heart, and you guys already know that Malfoy is my favorite author in the Dramione fandom, so of course I'll be biased about her story. But if you guys want a little bit of an alternative universe wartime story with a more unique plot line, please go ahead and read Statics, of course with the bonus of Lucius Malfoy character growth as well. Next, we're moving on to The Boy in the Hammock by Malfoy, and this story is a little bit different. This story starts out for us when Hermione got lost while on the run with Harry and Ron. She got lost and she accidentally stumbled upon a scene in the forest. Somebody, a boy, was being punished for an act of betrayal to the Dark Lord. He was bitten to like a blink of death himself, and she stopped the killing of this boy without really knowing that the boy is Draco Malfoy. So how the two of them kind of navigate through the war, being alone in the woods, separated from their people, how the two of them kind of form that alliance in order to survive the war and make an impact to win the war, is how the story is written for us. And of course, with our Malfoy story, there's also that bonus added of supportive Lucius and Narcissa Malfoy, and I just love how Malfoy write the character for all the Malfoys in all of her stories. So if you guys wanted to read again with Lucius and Narcissa character growth as well, I feel like this story is going to be perfect too. Next, I have Remain Nameless by Hinged 19, and now this is a little bit of a different story because this is a post-war story set 9 years after the final battle at Hogwarts. So Draco and Hermione is a little bit older, but our boy Draco is still struggling with the ghost of the war, the guilt that he has to bear for all of the action that he did. And so in this story, we get to see how he overcome all of that to become a better person. If you guys are more interested in a true romance story that highlight the growth of Draco through Hermione's eye, I feel like this story is going to be perfect for you. This is also one of my favorite all-time Dramione fanfiction ever, and it's also what I think is a must-read for the Dramione fandom. So I think you'll have a good time with this story. Next, I'm going to recommend you guys a classic, and that is Isolation by Bex Jen. The story is an alternative universe story where Draco is being kept in Snape protection after the event of the Astronomy Tower, after his failure on the Astronomy Tower. And instead of going on the run with Ron and Harry, Hermione stayed back at Hogwarts. So Snape brought Draco back to Hogwarts for his own protection, and he was placed into a same living quarters with Hermione Granger, who is probably like the most trusted student on campus, in order for his protection as well. So once again, how they navigate through that shared living situation is how we get to see the story unfold. This story raised a lot of controversy in the community because you either love the character growth of Draco in this story or you hate the character growth of Draco in this story. For me though, I recommend this story because I believe that this has one of the most realistic character growth for Draco in the whole Dramione fanfiction community. Draco started out being the bully, the Death Eater, the brat that he is, and if you guys are one of the people who make the argument that we discussed at the beginning, you guys will fall in love with this story because Draco is very bad in this story. But as he continued to share the living quarter with Hermione, his ideas get challenged, and then he grows into a very fine man himself. This story is the first Dramione story that I have ever read, and it's also very fan fiction in a way, so it's always have a place in my heart. And if you guys want to just read a true fan fiction story with very realistic character development, I feel like this story is gonna be perfect. And lastly, I want to give an honorable mention to one of my favorite all-time Dramione story ever, that is Trust and Lie by Max Boyle. This story deviates a little bit from canon just right after the 5th year at Hogwarts, because this story starts out with Hermione unexpectedly and coincidentally saved Draco's life in a very sticky situation at the beginning of their 6th year at Hogwarts. So they get the chance to kind of form this weird relationship with Hermione being his friend. We get to see how Draco is brought to the bright side and how he deviates from his impossible forge plan that we discussed in the beginning. And we get to see how a good friendship and somebody who really cares for you can influence the decisions that Draco makes throughout 6th year. And if you guys do not like the bashing of any character including Snape or Dumbledore, this story is going to be perfect for you because this story just shines a different light to all of the characters in the Wizarding War. This story is the most beautifully written story that I have ever read. This story is the first story that made me write down lines of fanfiction into my journal because of just how beautifully written the words is. It's almost lyrical to me. So if you guys want a very poetic read that highlight the Wizarding World in a very different light because you are just tired of reading the same thing over and over again, this story is going to be perfect for you because the premise, the plot line, the characters that are featured in this story is just one of a kind, and it's just my favorite. Okay, I think that's all that I have to say. That's a really long discussion on the characters of Draco Malfoy, but with his birthday coming up, I think he deserves to have the record set at least straight on my channel. Okay, so I hope that you guys have a good time hanging out with me today. I hope that you guys find any of the recommendations that I shared today helpful to your reading, and of course I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.